Hey, what's up, Think Bigger Mastermind? Justin Stoddard here with my friend Mark Savage of Cornerstone Studio. Mark, show those pearly whites. This is what you're going to miss out on. If you're listening, if the audio, you better go find the video. Mark and I really, in this conversation, go into what's it take to really thrive into the future as a service-based professional. We kind of map out the unique value proposition that we've created in our individual spheres, which is much more broad than what's on our business card.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how marketing is not just a product or service that you're out finding in an industry, but it's really about thought leadership, finding mentors, consulting, and really plotting out priorities in your journey.
You're gonna love this episode, so tune in, follow it all the way to the end. You're gonna get some great nuggets, kind of about 2/3 of the way through. We really kind of hit our stride. It's gonna be fantastic. You're gonna love it, and give us a review at the end. We appreciate it very much. Have a great day, everybody. So the big question is this: how do those of us with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind. Hey, Justin Stoddard of the Think Bigger Mastermind. Couldn't be more excited today to be here with my friend and business guru, Mark Savage, owner of Cornerstone Web Studio. Mark, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mark is a really brilliant guy. He's built a great business, a great brand reputation. Those in the Portland area would be hard-pressed to discuss web development and not have Mark's name come up. And his work extends far beyond the parameters of Portland. You guys do business all over the place.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit about that. But today's episode is really going to talk about thought leadership. Mark and I actually have similar roles, even though we're in totally different industries, serve, for the most part, totally different customers. Our day-to-day actually looks pretty similar.
Yeah.
And we've kind of carved out a unique niche in our worlds that we feel like is much of where the future of service-based industries needs to go. So we're going to talk about that, what it means, what thought leadership looks like, how we aspire to be that to our customers and to our industries, and how you need to take that initiative very, very seriously if you want to be able to maintain your margins and your customer base and have a bright and happy future. Would you agree, Mark?
I want a bright and happy future. I know that.
That part we're sure
I'm
of.
assuming they do too.
Who doesn't want a bright and happy ever after? So let's talk a little bit, Mark, about your business from a functional standpoint. Is you guys develop website solutions for customers?
Yeah, so we got started, most of the people at Cornerstone have a marketing background.
Okay.
But we found that as you drive traffic to a website, if that website can't convert, then it's just art.
Okay.
And we don't want to sell art because obviously we're here to generate revenue for your business, so you guys can take the vacations you want, take the days off that you want. And so what we found as marketing guys is that we need web people to actually build something pretty, so that when somebody comes on your website, they're making an impression. I mean, you're making that impression within 10 seconds. So that's how we kind of formulated it into a web design company with that marketing overview.
So you said most of the people that you've hired are marketing people.
Yeah.
Whereas, would you say that most website design companies are more graphic designers?
Yeah.
Like they know how to make it pretty.
Yeah.
Which you guys know how to do that as well. But what you're saying is, even more importantly, is once someone gets to the site, it needs to look pretty, but it needs to convert. It needs to take people somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that's where the marketing expertise comes in.
Yeah, the irony of web design, I think, for most people that they don't get is that the whole point of building a website is to get them off the website, right? So you're coming onto an agent site. The agent doesn't want you to stay there, they want you to call them, right? So when you run into your average web designer, their whole mindset is, how do I make people stay on the website? I want to make it pretty. So we run all of our graphic design people, all of our web design people through marketing training. And I think it's kind of a blow to their ego sometimes, because it's like, hey, it's not, I know you're making something that you think is beautiful, but the goal here is actually for it to be so beautiful that they don't want to see it anymore. And they're just so impressed, they want to call the agent and do some business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've been around for how long now, your company?
Heading out 5 years.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Before that, you had pretty extensive experience in the web design space. 5 years ago, you decided, I need to do this on my own because I see it needs to be different than the company that I'm with.
So I was in marketing for corporate, and what we found is that corporate's all about margin, as we all know. And so what they would do is they would go heavy on marketing, and they go really skinny on web design. So we were selling great marketing packages and then driving it to templates.
Okay.
And the templates weren't converting, and seeing this trend, I thought we need to jump ship here and actually get in and start doing long-term relationships with a smaller amount of clients so they could actually get what they need, which is great marketing driving to something that actually converts, and having somebody monitor those analytics all the time, so that if there are red flags, they can get fixed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you felt like the template world, again, wasn't converting. People went there, they weren't impressed enough to take the action that you wanted them to take, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we've seen templates convert if they're nice enough, but a lot of times there's a couple problems with templates. One is nobody's behind the scenes looking at analytics to see if they're converting. Okay. If they don't convert, your entire website is junk, right? So
doesn't matter, right?
we need to actually scrap it and move over. So building something custom, you can usually make little tweaks for those conversions. And the other problem with templates was just simply that if I visited your website and then I visited my website and they were the exact same, somebody realized, hey, there's no personality behind this. I'm not actually getting to know the business. I'm not getting to know the business owner. I've seen this before. It just feels stale.
Now, you told a story, Mark, before we get into kind of the thought leadership, which I know a lot of people are interested in hearing about. I want to hear a little bit more. You shared with me an experience. I believe it was someone you're related to that lived up in Washington, had done a lot of content on like a Wix type site, right?
Yeah.
And yet you Googled that person and you couldn't find them anywhere. Maybe go share a little bit more detail about that, and then explain to the audience why that was the case. Even when someone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is creating a lot of content, right? But you still couldn't Google them and find them. What's the problem with?
Yeah, so here's a roundabout long answer. I mean, as business owners, most of them are type A, right? So we're all Home Depot type people, and we want to do it ourselves. Well, so you got Wix, GoDaddy, Weebly, and they know that you want to do it yourself, and they know that SEO is a hot button for you. So what they do is they create little boxes in their website templates that say, put your SEO in here. And so the next thing you're like, I do real estate in Portland, Wilsonville, Tiger, Tualatin, and you walk away and you say, man, I've done a great job at optimizing my website. But I'm telling you, if you're optimizing your website right now out of a box, you are you're not going to be found. I mean, it's just that's not how it works. So,
is it because it's so many people are doing it that way that Google has a hard time identifying that this one's actually a lot better? I mean, it's the common thing for everybody to do is to do it themselves. And so they don't know how to actually identify one that really stands out. Is that the science behind it?
It's funny. I think in a lot of ways, it's simpler than that. I mean, what you're saying is true, but sadly, when you go with a Wix or a Weebly, or you go with like a broker site that you can't really get into and manipulate, the problem is you can't manipulate it, right? It's based on a system. It's based on a development platform that you don't have full access to, and therefore you don't have the tools that you might know what to do, but you just can't do it. So that happens a lot of times. Yeah, my cousin Hannah, she was a photographer for a decade, Hannah May Photography, and so you search her by name, and there's a UK Hannah May Photography that would pop up, and she wouldn't pop up at all, and she had her Wix site for almost a decade.
And I'm sure putting a lot of like content-rich photos and like great stuff that people would like to see. But
another example, actually, her website looked pretty. I mean, I think she dragged and dropped until it looked really nice, but the problem was she wasn't getting any business from it. It wasn't converting.
Right. So that's really interesting because, again, I think in the past, when I was a general contractor, having a website that was beautiful was enough, right? Because people would go like, oh my goodness, like you're the real deal.
Yeah.
But anymore, if people can't find you and if it doesn't take people somewhere, right? Because bricks and mortar, depending upon the business model, right? But brick and mortar is becoming less and less relevant. And the new brick and mortar is your website, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard it described as this: is if you walk into a store and you have a total lame person behind the counter that's looking at their phone and doesn't even acknowledge you walking in the store, your sales are going to be something. Okay, call it X. But if you have someone that engages people, hey, how you doing? How you folks doing? Where are you from? Have you been in our store before? What are you looking for? Can I help you? I would probably check over here. Like just that engagement.
Yep.
It's a whole different process, and obviously your revenue is going to be a lot higher in that particular store. And what I'm hearing you say is that it's not enough to just have a pretty website, to have a pretty storefront. It actually needs to take people somewhere, right? It needs to do something. And that's kind of the maybe Web 2.0 or beyond, which is you've got to have this interactivity in your site that leads people somewhere as opposed to just looking pretty, right?
We hear those two words a lot, like, I want my website to be interactive and I want it to be engaging, right? Okay. And so then you'll ask the client, okay, what do you mean by that? Because it's just a fun rhetorical question. And inevitably, they're like, I don't know. Those are just buzzwords that I've heard. How do I interact with a two-dimensional screen where you're not present? It's just a website, right?
Right.
So for instance, on Cornerstone's site, we have a chat bot on the bottom right-hand corner of our site. You can click on that, and it immediately blasts out a Slack message to all of our team members, and whoever's available can just immediately start typing in and answering those questions. So that's one way we make it interactive.
Very cool.
Guys, you can do that as well. It's walking through that. It's pretty affordable to do it now. There are actually bots, so if you're busy with listings or showings, you can do multiple choice. So somebody clicks on the bottom of your website and it says, hey, are you interested in a showing, a listing, buying, selling, etc. And they click boxes or buttons and it'll take them through a chart. So that's nice. I think we're doing one of the steps right here, right? We're making video.
Yeah.
So this is a way that you can engage, actually physically talk to somebody on the website, pre-record something that they're interested in, doing a blog. And so, but yes, to answer your question, I think it has to be engaging, it has to be interactive, it has to have some movement to it to really just draw the eye and kind of intrigue them too.
I love it. I love it. Great stuff. Let's talk a little bit about how, going back to what we initially promised our audience we'd talk about, which is kind of thought leadership, right? You and I both are in service-based industries where artificial intelligence is getting better and better, right? Again, we've kind of poked holes in the template sites like whether it be Squarespace or Weebly or Wix that they don't actually provide the SEO options. People can't necessarily find you, nor do they necessarily take people to where they want to go. So we know that there's a difference. However, they have big advertising budgets that are telling a different tale, right?
Yeah.
So taking that same scenario with real estate agents, there's these massive portals, I'll call them, right? Places like Zillow, et cetera, that are capturing a lot of attention. They've got a lot of advertising money, and they're moving into the real estate business. That's not a secret anymore. They're going to be competing with agents. And so I see some common threads here of AI, artificial intelligence, trying to diminish the role that humans play, and therefore lowering commissions, right, and margins for those players. So you've identified that in your industry, and you have a totally different value proposition than just creating a beautiful site, right?
Yeah.
There's the beautiful site, the interactive site, the engaging site, the SEO, again, which we would argue is far better than some of these template options. But in addition to that, you're even taking it to another level to where you're much more than a web designer, right? Like the conversations that you have with clients, I know the conversations you've had with me about my own personal business ventures were much more enlightening than I would expect to hear from someone whose expertise is in just web design, right? Talk to us a little bit about maybe kind of that passion that you have and that skill set that you have and how you see that benefiting Cornerstone Studio that we can then apply to these other, our audience's businesses so that they can do something similar to maintain margin and thrive in the future.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Zillow, and we talked almost a year ago now, and we're like, they're going to jump in, they're going to start competing, they're going to become agents, and then when it happened, I remember getting the text from you saying like, hey, they just announced it, and it was an obvious step, but I think we need to take ourselves back to people hate phone trees, they want to talk to a person, they want to interact with somebody that they can really relate to. We have an agent, we have a couple of different agents that, like one is a yoga real estate agent, right? Like she's got yoga all over her page, her business name is yoga, right? So it's like, she wants to find people with that similar lifestyle. We have another agent that we work with that's all about equestrian living. So she's all about horse properties and she's really trying to, I love that because they're trying to engage with people on a deeper level. And what Zillow, Trulia, all these guys are going to start doing is to say, hey, we'll take all the personality out of it, and if you're willing not to deal with all that, and you're willing not to have a friend to really walk you through things, then we'll give you a percentage off.
Right.
But I don't see that working well. If an agent can step it up and really sell their personality and sell, that's what people want to buy. Right. It's like you said at the story, and I want to engage with that person. I want them, when I walk in, to know that I'm welcome there, to feel like I have somebody that I can call, and I'm not giving up a percentage point for that.
Right.
And so I see agents all the time want to stick with the broker website, want to stick with the cookie cutter. And when you're talking industry specific, real estate's probably one of the worst in the sense that you guys have a lot of tools at your disposal that all the other agents have. It's very easy in this industry to look like everyone else from broker to broker.
The property search on your website, right?
Yep, right. We can name it, right? You got the buying, the selling, the relocating, maybe I can get a commission from somebody in another state page. Yeah. We've got IDX on our website, and a lot of times I see agents that go all in on it and they do really, really well, and I see a lot of agents just stay out of it completely and they don't even realize the potential. I think actually, funny enough, that where agents can get in trouble is being in the middle ground, right? Where they're like, I'm going to spend, a couple $100s or whatever. I'm going to have a presence, but it's not a great presence, because I think we got to almost remember is if you watch a Honda Civic drive down the road, nobody pays any attention, right? And if you see a Lexus drive down the road, you're like, wow, that's a nice car. And if you see a beater driving down the road, you're like, that poor guy, needs a raise,
Right.
And so I think that's what you should do to yourselves is if you can't afford to jump into something that really represents your brand and who you are, just stay with the broker stuff and look like everyone else and save the ruples until you can go all in, and that way you're not halfway or towing into it and driving the beater car down hurting yourself, shooting yourself in the foot.
So when you sit down with clients, it's not necessarily just web conversations, right? I mean,
no, it's kind of the end. I mean,
yeah, it's almost like it's the end product. But before that, you have all of this business strategy conversation of identifying what are the goals of this particular client, and it could be real estate. I mean, because you guys service all different industries, right? I mean, real estate's one of them.
Yeah.
Who else do you serve? Just give me some examples of other industries.
Oh man, I mean this week alone, we're working on a pawn shop, a funeral home, a dentist, a lawyer. I mean, so yeah, it's
goes on and on.
It's eclectic, yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of
sure.
E-commerce. You guys have big, very robust e-commerce sites that you're building that
we do. Yeah, we have retail sites where they're selling clothes, and I mean we have multi-million-dollar retail sites right now that. Those are fun too, and I think what you're getting at is like the process for everybody is different, and so the web design conversation is really like the last thing we talk about, and we probably talk about it for 5% of the conversation because for the average agent, it's more about how do I get the process going, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do I get a lead? How do I funnel that lead? What CRM system do I use? And that's why our days look so similar, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Is because neither of us talk web design all that much. Mine is just a means to an end.
Right.
And go, okay, cool. If you want to do all of these things, okay, let's build it so that it does that stuff.
Well, I think moving into this new world that we're entering into now is that if you're a service-based professional, it's not going to be good enough for you just to be good at whatever silo that you're at. For example, if all I talked about was title and escrow all day long, I'd have a very narrow audience and it'd be new agents, right?
Yeah.
And that's not my target market. I serve some great new agents, but for the most part, I do very established, high-producing business owners, right? CEOs and business owners. And so because that's my background, those conversations are very fun to me. And I find that they're valuable to the client because, again, title and escrow is a conversation that we have in the sense that it's the way that I show up in their lives, right? Meaning the company that I'm with. But the conversation I love being in are business owner, business strategy conversations that really help that client to think at a different level, hence the Think Bigger Mastermind, right?
Yeah.
And then to, in turn, be able to do different things because of the new thinking. Like my job's to help, I get paid for ideas and helping see that those ideas get implemented, because as those new ideas get implemented, new things get done and new impact is made, right, in the marketplace.
Well, I think what you're talking about is bias, right? It all boils down to bias, because what I love about the Think Bigger Mastermind is you have no skin in the game when it comes to these are my 2 products, these are my 5 products, and so I'm going to sell you into this 5 products. Or here's the 2 of the 5 that work for you. I think that happens way too often with business owners. They can't find a marketing mentor they can trust because every marketing mentor is associated with these 5 products. And so
it's some potentially ulterior motive, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I love business consulting more than being in marketing sales, if you will. Because then you can really say, hey, you need HubSpot. Do you guys sell that? No, we don't. You need here's an 800, call John. And that's what I love about what you do, because you have honest conversations with agents. Well, we met with a team the other day, and I love her thing. She's like, I don't know you from Adam. I don't know if we're going to buy from you, and I'm not here to sell you anything.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point. The point is to lay out a plan that you can enact with or without me, but in an unbiased, here's what you need, these 10 things. I know 3 guys who can help here, here, and here. I do these 2. I think people they don't have that. They don't even know where to go to find that, and that's what I love about what you're doing here.
I think one of my friends had mentioned before, she was a top producing agent at the time, and she said, I owe it to my customers to be a top producer so that I can make decisions that benefit them as opposed to me, right? As soon as I'm not producing at a high level, all of a sudden, my ulterior motives, which is I need to eat this month.
So true.
I got bills to pay. All of a sudden, I'm looking at every conversation differently, which is how do I get my money from you, right? How do I get it back from you? Because I really need it this month. Whereas when you start to produce at a higher level, you can really provide a really high level of value, which conversation we had earlier, which is like, I'm going to provide value at a really high level. If you see it and you want it, I'm here. If you don't see it, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Like those who have, ears to hear it, great. Those that don't, hey, great. I wish you the best.
Yeah.
And at some point, I might be the right fit, but I'm not going to chase, nor am I going to try and convince, because if you don't see the value, then it's not the right fit, right? And it's a fun spot to be in that, where it's less about selling, it's more about offering level at that value at a high level, and attracting the people that say, I need that, I want that, that's what I need in my business right now. You know?
Yeah, and I think when you find somebody who actually takes it away from you, you've got somebody honest. We met with an HVAC guy the other day, and he was ready to sign on the dotted line for a high-end SEO package. And when I called him to confirm the meeting, his voicemail was full. And so when we went to the meeting, we explained SEO and all the things he wanted to know about. And then I said, we're not going to actually sell this to you for 60 days because I want to call you over the next 60 days and see that your voicemail isn't full. Because if you already have enough leads stacking up in your voicemail and you can't handle all those leads, like, for crying out loud, man, those are free. They're already sitting there. Yeah. And so I think you got to find somebody like that in your life to, or reach out, ask the questions to Justin, and get those unbiased, I'm not trying to sell you something responses, so you at least know where to start.
Yeah.
Everything should start with a business consulting conversation of where are you at in your life, what are your goals, where do you plan to go, what kind of team do you have, what support do you have, what ops do you have, what are you missing, what are you struggling, what are your strengths. If you're not starting there, and I think that's why web design is about 5% of what we talk about, is because that's the conversation. And then it's like, okay, great, now that I know you, I know your business, I know where you're going, let's design a platform for you, a website for you that does this.
Well, I love being in that spot as well, because I spend a lot of my time networking outside of my own industry, because I realize if I can identify really clearly where an agent's at, or where a customer's at, and where they want to be, there's some value that I can bring, but I get really valuable as I start to pull in people who can think at a similarly high level, who have different expertise in different areas. Now all of a sudden, your value proposition becomes part of mine, because we've built that network, we've built that, that relationship to where I know you'll take care of the customers, and the customers will appreciate that kind of value. And that creates a really fun life for me as well, because the conversations I'm in are very consultative, they're very selfless in the sense that I'm really looking out for the interests of the client. And then outside of those conversations, I'm out building other relationships with high-level thinkers and doers that can pour in and help that client get from here to here at a different trajectory and level than they ever thought possible, right? With the plan that they had. And I found that that's kind of my favorite day. If I could carve out, like, what does my favorite workday look like? It's that, and that's what I get to do, which is fantastic. It's super fun.
Well, and you hit on agents and other clients out of the industry. I remember about 5 years ago, I had an opportunity to float down the Clackamas, and there was a contractor, an accountant, and a dentist, and then here I am, a marketing guy. And what we found is that we all had similar issues in our business.
Interesting.
And so I think, if you're trying to drive more clients, remember, don't start the conversation at like, hey, does my logo look great? Does my color of red blend with my, broker brand or whatever? Right. Start with, hey, here's where I am, here's what I'm struggling with, here's where I want to go. And then, like you say, really look out to those, the people who are forward thinking and solve those issues. And the brand will fall into place once you do.
So Mark and I are part of we get together on a regular basis with there's 5 of us total, all of us from totally different industries. Yeah. And it's interesting how much we have to offer each other, and how much, when you're giving advice to, like, Brandon, for example, I'm tuning in, I'm like, that's super relevant to me, and I'm over there taking notes for myself, and then I'm contributing, and other people are like, dude, I could totally apply that. Like you said, business at a high level across all industries has so many common threads that I would encourage, for those of you that are listening, if there's some takeaways that you're hoping to get from this, it's think bigger about the relationships that you're in. Sometimes you only want to be in relationships with people that are potential customers, and I think you're greatly limiting your ability to serve those customers if those are the only people you're in conversations with. Granted, I do think that having high-level conversations with one customer will definitely help your conversation with the next customer, but if you can also be in conversations with great high-level business professionals across multiple industries, there's new perspectives and new paradigms that are going to come out that are going to cause you to be wildly more valuable than you would have been by only exposing yourself to that kind of narrow paradigm and perspective of your own industry, right?
Get the law of abundance. I mean, if we're really getting into the meat of this video, they could probably skip to these last 5 minutes. We're getting good now.
Yeah.
Because I think what I find is so many business owners like, I can't talk to that guy. They're in my industry,
right?
And they're going to take my secrets, and then their business is going to do better than my business. Like I encourage you, talk to people you respect in your own industry, because my dad used to have a saying that you'd beat 98% of people just by working hard. Right? And I didn't realize it's probably 99.999%, not 98%, because share ideas. You're the one who's going to take them and actually implement them.
Yeah.
And so often the ideas that you share, they won't. But even if they do, we forget about the law of abundance. There is enough clients out there. I mean, how many agents are there right now in Portland?
Just under 8,000.
So you're talking about getting together with 3 that you respect, and all of a sudden that's going to like shift the amount of business you can get? No, not at all.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you do that.
It's interesting. I took my own advice. I told realtors on a similar type video that they needed to start doing a weekly video in which they were sharing questions that they were being asked, that they needed to go sit in front of a camera and answer those questions and be asking for more questions. So I just started Marketing Minute with Justin, if you haven't tuned into it.
Yeah.
So
I tune in. I'm a frequent first-time listener or long listener, first-time caller, something like that.
So it was interesting because those are a lot of the things that I've kind of held a little bit close to my chest, right?
Yeah.
Because they're conversations where I'll step in with a client, have unique value conversations, and I walk out with a client, and I feel like my competition didn't really know what was happening in those meetings, and I didn't really want them to know what was happening in those meetings. But I'm kind of like, it's great. Like if I can help, because you're right, very few, if any, are gonna implement it, nor can they execute on the ideas that I'm sharing. And if I can help raise the standard for my entire industry, right? If I can be the Xerox machine of the copy industry, awesome, right? That's going to benefit everybody. And initially, if you're the leader, the one that's stepping out and saying, hey, I feel like I'm a thought leader, I've got some ideas to share, you become a thought leader by having a good perspective. And number 2, what most people don't do, which is actually share that perspective, right? Leadership actually means you have to stand up and raise your voice and speak. And so it's been kind of a paradigm shift for me, because I've been like, oh, whoa, this is my trade secret. This is what's helped me to, to win up to this point. And now I'm kind of like, here you go.
Here you go.
Take it.
This is what I'm all about.
And it's super fun. Like I don't care anymore. I'm kind of like this is a tiny bit of what I actually have to share, because I can't, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if somebody takes it and runs with it, awesome. I hope, I don't care if they even give me credit. I hope that it improves their business and the business of their clients, because there's plenty more that will come to me, right?
I just see it play out. I mean, for me, like it's a God thing. You know, I think if you elevate and you give away,
you lift,
you always get back. And so I've never seen anyone go out there and be like, man, I gave away all my secrets, or I was trying to give away value for free and I didn't get anything back. And so you never hear that story.
Yeah. It's always the givers that are the leaders. I mean, I think about Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a mentor, of mine. He gives so much free content away, and it's hard to find something that he's selling.
Yeah. I mean, the guy with more money than he can spend in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Because he gave it away.
Yeah, he just gives and gives and gives it. And that's why, because he's out there so much, he can demand over $100,000 for an hour speaking gig, right? Because everybody knows who he is. They're like, dude, it creates this high demand. And so when you do want to get paid, you get paid at a really high level, because everybody knows who you are, right? Most businesses are like, I don't want to give away my secrets, and they die in obscurity.
That is the irony of the whole thing, right? I mean, when he's giving out that information, I mean, if you didn't want Gary to come speak for $100,000, you could go through his podcast and pull out some gold. And that's probably what he was going to say to your group in the first place, right? But it's because you know what he's going to say that makes you want to hear that for yourself, and actually rub up against that guy and go like, hey, I need this osmosis of your brain power. So the more you can give away, your clients are going to see that. They're going to see how intelligent you are. Your competition is going to see that. And then when they can't handle the transaction, it's amazing to me how many people will reach out to their competition because they respect you in the industry. Out-of-state referrals, we're both in B&I. You better believe those out-of-state referrals are looking at our websites and trying to figure out who we are and what we do, and how we add value. And video is a great way. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's interesting, kind of on that same thread, is that I feel really confident that even if one were to share all their secrets, at the end of the day, your clients still need you to help talk about how to implement that, the tactical, right? And so give it all away, but at the end of the day, people are going to want to be in business with a person that's actually seen that implemented before? Like, okay, I love the idea. How do I do that? At some point, people want to be in business with the thought leader, right?
Yeah.
With the one who's leading other people in actually implementing what you're talking about. So again, another reason, hopefully a key takeaway from this, another key takeaway is to say, I need to start sharing. If my business is gonna die, it's gonna be because people don't know that I have unique value. And so therefore I'm gonna give and give and give and give and watch what happens. Yeah, like you're saying, Mark, that you're only going to get more and more. The more you give, the more you get, which is right, like an eternal principle, right?
I think it's a universal law.
Yeah.
I've never seen it broken.
Yeah, very cool. Anything else you want to kind of takeaways you want to share with the audience as we wrap up here?
The only other thing that I can think of that really parallels this is that you're going to get a lot of advice from people that you don't know how to implement. And so, I would definitely look for someone that you trust to actually help you step by step get that stuff implemented. And I think a lot of times people just don't put priorities on it. I have the pleasure of working with our sales guy who's also a personal trainer in his off time. And so he's really big about, being that personal trainer background, having you eat small bites, not because you're losing weight, but because people are trying to implement so much at one time. Yeah. They're like, I can't, I'm drinking more water, I'm trying not to eat carbs, I'm trying to, and then they just, lose it all.
Right.
And I think we see that every day. So if we can end this video with anything, I would say is, don't worry, it's a journey, it's a process. Find someone that you trust, find somebody who understands that it's about the analytics, who's not afraid to get into the data and admit when it's not working, who has more than 2 products so that they don't hide those analytics when their products aren't working for you. And then really prioritize those small bites and just keep going until you get that whole picture. And I think tuning into Bigger Mastermind is going to help them a ton, because I know I always get value out of your videos.
Cool, man. Appreciate it. How do people find you if they're looking for someone who's a thought leader in your industry? Who can have a great strategy conversation.
Yeah.
And if at some point they need web design, of course, you guys are a definitely go-to team. How do they find you?
We never charge for coffee, so we'll take any of you guys out for coffee if you want. Our office is in Troutdale, so if you want to drive I-84 past the city, it's pretty open. But you can get on our website and use that chatbot. It's at cornerstone.studio. There's no .com these days, so it's all fun. So cornerstone.studio. Jump on there, or you can email me directly at mark@cornerstone.studio.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on today, man. Appreciate it.
Brother. Appreciate you
having me. Lots of fun.
me.
Thanks, everybody. And tune in. If this has been helpful for you, I'd encourage you to share it. Share it with a friend. Blast it out through your channels. If you found value here, would love to get Mark's great, unique message out to more people. So thanks again, man. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Think Bigger Mastermind with me, your host, Justin Stoddard. Now, here's how you can show me some digital love in return. Number 1, subscribe to the show. Number 2, give me a review. And number 3, go think bigger.